garlic chives, which have come back. A bit of oregano, which has just kind of come there by itself. Strawberries, yarrow, more garlic chives, which are really starting to take hold this year. That's chamomile, which has gotten huge somehow. Hi folks, you're very welcome back again. It's been a long time since February when I last made a proper video, and a hell of a lot has happened since then. Pretty much all of the plans that I went through back in February have come to fruition. We have the new polytunnel in place, the new beds are coming in, all of the extensive crop plan that I mentioned has been kept up with. It's been a hell of a lot of work, but we're on track, and we've even just opened the shop last week for the first time, and like I said in the previous video, we're only doing it one day a week, so we're open on Fridays, and even lots of people came out here and wanted to see the place, so we did tours, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, here's a video tour and you can see things in more detail. It'll probably be a pretty long video, so I hope you enjoy it. So here in the greenhouse, everything is pretty much at capacity, and everything that we'll see later on has come through here. Down here we have hollyhock, which I grew from seed, some parsley that I just put in there, lavender at the back, this grapevine which is now a year old and it's been pruned back, and I'm training it up there so that it goes along the top of the greenhouse. It's currently 12 degrees outside and 27 degrees in here. Down here I have sunflowers, perpetual spinach, dill, purple sweet corn that was donated from a friend, sweet pea, more sweet corn, fennel, scallions, broccoli. These ones here got eaten by the mouse, so I have some live traps set now, and they seem to have gotten rid of the mice for now. We have amaranth, choy sum, parsley, cabbage, some root parsley, which is kind of a multi-crop. You get both the leaves, which are like parsley, and then you can actually eat the root as well, like parsnip. Here we have strawberries in containers for early strawberries in here. We should have strawberries around the middle of May, going by last year. Here's a bit of aloe vera. This is still recovering from the cold, but this has been in here all winter, and still some nice green bits here. And the nasturtiums are self-seeding again here from last year. In the corner there's a kiwi vine, and I just stuck some ruby chard down there for a bit of colour in here. Might get a bit shaded there by the nasturtiums. I'll probably move them back a little bit to give it a chance, just because it looks cool in there. I've got more out in the market garden, and these are the 4th and 5th successions of Little Gems, iceberg lettuce and mixed leaf lettuce, and these are nasturtiums, and they'll be going outside. And there's the 3rd succession of dill, some marmon tomatoes which will be going in here, and these are the peppers, chili peppers and aubergines, and some tiny little habanero peppers there, celery at the back, okra, and cucumbers. We have telegraph and Parisian pickling cucumbers, and that's basil, water spinach. So yeah, a lot has come and went in here over the past 3 months, and I think I'll set up a time-lapse camera next year, because you'd be amazed how much stuff moves around in here. It would be really cool to see a photo of it every day put into a time lapse. And here's where stuff gets hardened off before going outside. At the moment I have spinach, onions, and there's pots of lavender over there. And you may have noticed that the avocados are gone from the greenhouse, and I've got them out here instead, and they'll be staying out here for the summer. Little leaves starting to come back, and they're all starting to green up again. They were actually out here during the frost the last 2 nights, and they were fine with the heat from this back wall keeping them okay. So hopefully they'll do well this summer. This one before has spent a summer outside, so that's why it's got a nice thick stem on it. It's a nice strong tree, and the wind should strengthen them up nicely. So coming out here now around the pond, here we have the shop, which is the old family tent. We have this open every Friday now, which is different from last year where we were open every day. And yeah, I talked about that in the video I made back in February. Then out the front, I haven't really shown this in previous videos, but this was lawn, and we've just after put these stones down, and everything behind the stones we're going to leave for long grass. There's an oak tree there, which is 7 years since we planted it, and a buddleia, and then lots of spring bulbs which Mum has planted in, some primroses there, and then these wildflower islands which I've sown some wildflowers into just to break up the long grass, and hopefully they'll go to seed and spread around. A little bee hotel down here, made from a hollowed out log. So yeah, what was lawn is now at least half long grass and wildflowers, while still leaving this strip of lawn here, which is useful if you need to park a few extra cars or back a truck out or something during the middle of the summer. It's nice to have that little bit of extra space out the front. And having this short grass and the long grass it's nice to have that variation. That'll be beneficial to a more diverse range of wildlife. So both are good. So coming back in here then, we have these beds and herbs are starting to come out. As you can see, any leftover seedlings from the market garden, I'm just putting them in here. There's leftover coriander, onions, mixed lettuce, some spinach there, beetroot, just to fill in the gaps, and comfrey, there's yarrow, and here's some cauliflowers which haven't been netted or anything, but because they're mixed with all this stuff, the pigeons just haven't found them. So that's kind of cool. This broom smells amazing. If only it could translate on camera. These lupins are starting to come out. A a good bit of parsley here, thyme, chives, curry plant, sage, fennel, lemon balm, yarrow. There's a strawberry over there. There used to be strawberries planted here back 2 years ago. This ivy is creeping around nicely. The moss is covering the stones. This big sage plant. I probably should have cut this back. I usually cut it back every year, but yeah, it's just doing its thing. Thyme, more oregano, some garlic chives, and then red campion, which has aphids on it already, but that's okay. And nice big pile of chives here, and the elder is really taking off this year. It's turned into a big bush. No lilies yet, but I'd say they'll be here in about 2 weeks or so. Don't see any coming up yet. Apple trees in blossom. Bees all around today. They're busy today. So in here, these are all tomato plants which are left over. I have my tomato plants planted into the ground, but I'm selling some of them. And here's some perennial food crops which a friend gave to me. We have skirret, tree spinach, sorrel, and Portuguese kale. They'll be going into the food forest. Over here we have the second succession of scallions, some basil, which I may have planted out a little bit early. Hopefully it'll recover. A lot of spinach, which will be getting a second harvest off of tomorrow. Lettuce, the first succession of scallions, and pak choi and kailan down there. And this is what's left of the radishes. These are starting to bolt, so they need to be pulled up. Got a good harvest, good early harvest of radishes off those. Then out here, these are about to come out, and dill and coriander are going in here. A few other things, I think. That's what's left of the winter cabbage. Everything's gone. And coriander in this bed. Second succession of coriander will be coming next week. And this is the worm bin, which I've talked about in other videos. This wildflower patch is really nice this year. The bluebells are just finishing, but we've had snowdrops and daffodils, crocuses, daisies are out now, and dandelions, and lots of cow parsley here at the back. This is a wild onion, which I picked up somewhere and planted it in here. It was on the side of the road. They're gone to flower now. It's the end of the daffodils. Great crops of rhubarb this year. I put some donkey dung down last year and it's really took off this year. It's been great. Compost heaps need to be turned. So going into the market garden here, I have this net up to keep the chickens out, and this new little handle here, which makes things easier. I can open it with one hand. I think I mentioned this shed in my last video, and it's finished, but I still need to kit out the inside of it. It's kind of a mess at the moment. I want to have all the tools hanging up and be a little bit nicer. So I just have the beds uncovered this morning. They usually have this thermocrop fleece / net on top of it. The chickens got into these 3 beds earlier on, and these carrots were scratched up a good bit. And there's a lot of grass actually coming up from where I put the donkey dung from last year, which is a pity. I didn't think it'd have so much grass seed in it, but there's a lot in it. How are you? This mixed baby salad was a bit of a disaster. I left a heavy frost cover on top of it, and it got a bit burnt in the frost, or it might be kind of mildew from the lack of air underneath the frost cover, but that got hit badly, and I didn't really get any great crops out of it. There's a mixture of rocket and red Russian kale, purple frills, mustard, some pak choi and spinach in it. But most of the purple things didn't come out, which is a pity. It's mostly green, and the purple stuff is a bit scant. This was rocket, and it got hit pretty badly as well, and it was dug up. You see there's a lot of patches where the hens have been digging in it. Here there's radishes mixed with parsley, and the radishes will be coming out in the next few days. They're just starting to bulb out now. This bed here is chard. It's just starting to heat up, so it's just coming on now. It should be ready for harvest in the next 2 weeks, hopefully. These 2 beds are a mixture of curly kale, caballonero, and red kale. Got a little bit eaten by the slugs, but should be fine. Of beer traps down here. This is mixed leaf lettuce, which we just transplanted this morning. And here is mange 2. This was the first succession, which were sown inside and then transplanted out. And then here are some direct seeded, and there are a few gaps in that. And then this is all chamomile, which reseeded itself from last year, and I don't know if I'm happy about that or not. There was more over here, and I moved it to underneath the gooseberry bushes. And then there's more in this bed as well with the kale, which I'll probably be able to move. I'll do that today before it gets too big. This bed here is half dill and half scallions. I think that's the 3rd succession of scallions in there. This is cauliflower. It's doing pretty nice. It's a full bed of cauliflower. These ones I had covered with little ice cream tubs, and these ones I didn't. So that's the difference. Back in February, these were covered and those weren't. And this one is cabbage. A little bit of slug damage, but more slug traps down this morning. I'll just show you those ice cream tubs. They're really handy. I have them, a few nasturtiums under them at the moment, so those were protected from the frost. We had frost last night and the night before, and those are perfect. Those were self-seeded from nasturtiums that I planted in there last year. So here I also have some goji berries. 5 goji berry bushes, and that's a yostaberry, and 4 black currants, and that's chamomile that I just dug up and put in there. And that's parsley from last year, still hasn't gone to seed, so still getting a crop out of that, which is nice. It's been there all winter. And then chives, which I just planted in there, and lavender around here and there, which I sowed last year in pots and just planted out just a few weeks ago. More lavender there. Here's 3 gooseberry bushes, which are looking nice. And then 6 different varieties of blueberries. And there's a little bumblebee. Here's another succession of mixed salad leaves, and getting a lot more of the purple frills mustard in here, which is nice. Some rhubarb chard, and lots of rocket, green mustard, Russian red kale, and baby spinach leaves. So that's looking a lot better than the first succession. I made sure that these got plenty of air and the frost cover wasn't touching the tops of them. So they look nice and green and healthy. And then this is a lot of baby rocket, which is looking very nice. Here's the previous succession of lettuce, which is still coming on. And down here is another succession of radishes. Here's the purple spreading broccoli that I planted last April, I think, this time last year. It's an early purple spreading broccoli, so it's just ending. These ones here are actually starting to go to seed, and there's a few left in it that are still okay to eat. It's a decent one there. Here's the next succession of cauliflower, and these are looking really nice. I've had them underneath this heavy duty frost cover, and they're looking nice and lush and green. And here's some cabbages. A second succession of cabbages, and broccoli there. And then here's asparagus, which I grew from seed last year. A full bed of asparagus, which I think might be in a little bit too damp of a spot. I don't know if this is the frost or the damp. It's kind of at the end of the mound here, and I didn't realize when I planted it that I needed to raise it a bit. So all the water is kind of running into that bed there. I might raise it up a little bit, and if that doesn't work, I might have to move them. Around the perimeter of this wool, which is stopping grass from encroaching from the field. It's very experimental, but it may stop slugs. And down here is the new polytunnel. I said in the video in February that I'd be putting up a new polytunnel, and we managed to get it in place, and really happy with how it turned out. I just have a sheet over the door for now that goes on in a frosty night. I'm hoping that the doors will be big enough that it will have enough ventilation during the middle of the summer, but we'll see how it goes. So in here we have little gem lettuce, then iceberg lettuce there. This is a bed of spinach, radishes, which are just starting to bulb out as well. Those little gems are about to go outside, and scallions outside as well. Here I have salad turnips, Tokyo turnips, and there's lettuce. This is kailan, and there was pak choi in here, but it bolted. So I picked it and we stir fried it. It was probably due to the high heat during the day and the cold temperatures at night probably stressed it out, and that's why it bolted. And it's very hot in here at the moment. It's only the morning and it says it's 5 degrees outside, but I'd say it's closer to 30 in here at the moment, right in the center where it has the least ventilation. Here we have 96 tomato plants, which we transplanted last week. I have them hooped and they're not strung, so we had the frost cover over it the last 2 nights during the frost, and all is looking well. Leaves are a little bit curled, but everything should recover nicely. We have Zuckertraub, which is a cherry tomato. This is Marmond, which is a beef tomato, and this is Matima, which is a potato-leaved, medium-sized tomato. In this bed, we have kohlrabi. And then coming out here at the end of the polytunnel, I have 6 out of the 20 new beds that we'll be putting in and direct seeded into these yesterday. We have carrots, radishes, rocket and mixed baby leaf salad. These 2 beds still have to be filled, so there's still 14 beds to go in here. I was monitoring waterfall back when we had a heavy amount of rain about a month and a half ago, and this patch here turned into a bit of a pond, so I took topsoil from over there and put it down here to hopefully raise it up a little bit, and it seems to not be pooling anymore. There was a bit of a pool out there when we had rain the other day, and not any here, so it seems to be working. So that's leveled it all out a little bit. There was also potato drills in here last year, so it was very bumpy. I was tempted to bring in the rotavator and just level it all out with that, but there's so many thistles in here that it would just turn into a mess if I did that, since the rhizomes and the thistles will spread and multiply. Down here is going to be a little bit of a wild zone. I may put bees in it if I can get away with it. It's very close to the beds there still, but I'd love to have 2 beehives down here and just let it be a bit of a wilderness. There's primroses that are come up there all by themselves, and lots of nettles and cow parsley. Buttercups in here should be coming out soon, and of course thistles. Coming over here to the bottom of the food forest, this oak is just starting to bud out. Looking forward to seeing that come back this year. It's a nice willow here. Here's a nice spindle bush which we put in December, and it's looking nice and healthy. It's a hazel, common hazel. This is a medlar, planted last March. This is my James Grieve apple. This is looking very tall and could probably do with some shaping and pruning. I'll do that next year after the course with Brian Dillon and Michael Miklas, which you can see in another video. I filmed the whole thing, so it's a nice 40-minute long video, and it gives great insights into pruning, which is something that I hadn't really looked into properly before, and probably should have before this was so big. I'll probably end up snipping these branches and do, as they said in that video, and tie down these branches so that they're going horizontally. It's a job that I'll probably do next February. Then over here there's a little alder tree, which will be one of the chop and drops. It's a nitrogen fixing tree, and when you chop it, the roots will come off and put nitrogen into the soil due to mycorrhizal activity on the roots. It's a very useful tree for the temperate food forest. It's not legume, but it still interacts with mycorrhizal fungi, so very useful. Here's a cob nut, which the donkeys managed to get into last year, and it was looking lovely, and now it's, well, they gave it a good pruning. But it's coming on again and should be a nice bushy little cob nut tree. This is the pile of sticks which was here last year, and back in February I mulched it all with my tractor powered wood chipper. So that's what all the mulch is in the polytunnel and on some of the new beds. There's still a little bit left underneath this tarp here, and the chickens are doing a great job at brushing it around. That's it there. This is the Kilkenny pearmain, which is kind of a mix between a cooking apple and a dessert apple, I think. It's kind of a yellowy looking apple, and I'm looking forward to trying that in about a year or two, possibly. This is the beauty of Bath, I think. Yeah. And it's looking healthy, all coming back. Although there doesn't seem to be any leaves up here, so not sure what's going on there. It'll probably need to be pruned anyway. I'll probably do the same thing and tie those down and prune that. I might even do it now, since there's no leaves up here. This is a plum. Little flowers on it. Then coming in here up this part of the food forest, fenced off from the ducks and chickens, so they can establish some smaller plants in here, which I'm yet to properly do, since I've been spending so much time on the market garden. But here's a little strawberry tree, which I hope is okay. Could probably do with a little bit of ground that's nice and wet. This is a wayfaring bush, which is another one that's good for the birds. There's some nice little flowers coming out on it, which weren't there last year, so that's cool. Here's another alder, which would be for chop and drop. And another one in there. This is one of the 2 cherry trees that we put in back in December. It's starting to bud up, looking good. Down here I have Good King Henry, or poor man's asparagus. We seeded this mound last year with wildflowers and green manures, so coming back this year, self-seeded, we have some field mustard, alfalfa, dandelions, lots of calendulas, red clovers, and ryegrass, and some vetch as well. Here's a rosemary that I transplanted from a friend's house in here, and lemon balm. So this was just full of activity last year, with bees and butterflies and all sorts of things down here. Plenty of ladybird larvae and shield bug larvae as well. Here we have a big bed of nettles, which is nice. And in the center of that, there's another cobnut. Here are the foxgloves that I transplanted in here last year. And there's just a flower coming up on that now. So they should flower around June. And here's anise hyssop, which is coming back. Another one that's great for the bees. And here we have self-heal. And down here the green globe artichoke is coming back. It's huge already. And these are just the flowers left from last year. They're dead. Let's throw them in there. And we also have garlic chives, which have come back. A bit of oregano, which has just kind of come there by itself. It was in the compost or something. And strawberries, yarrow, more garlic chives, which are really starting to take hold this year. That's chamomile, which has gotten huge somehow. And there's more that's seeded down there. There was chamomile here last year, so it's great for self-seeding chamomile. So easy to grow too. Really lovely tea. Here's another alder. This here is that's a crab apple there. It's still budding out. Still hasn't got its leaves on yet. And there's red campion coming back. This is a little seat that I put in here. I have to trim back this so that I don't get stabbed by the hawthorn behind it, but it's a nice little place to sit down and look at the pond. And this is an elder, which is starting to go to flower again. Down here is yarrow and another alder. And that's that little path coming on down here. The grass has gone long in here, and I'm going to mulch it and put in more herbs down here. And that's a willow. Here we have more willow, and I'll be propagating a lot more to make this into a kind of a willow coppice patch. And here's two pears. This is pear Concord and pear Conference. And this is an almond that we put in back in December. There's lovely little flowers on it. This is a Munster tulip apple. I have a few tree stumps scattered here as well, which are just kind of insect habitat and just interesting. Lots of little things happening in there. Some soil in there and grass and dandelions growing out of it. You won't be able to see it when the cleavers and the nettles grow up around it during the middle of the summer. And this is Widow's Friend, which is a very early apple. I think it's supposed to fruit in late July, which is great. This will be the first apple every year, and the others should come on successionally after this one. Here's another cobnut that got eaten by the donkeys. They must like the cobnuts. Just one morning last summer, they managed to get in through this fence, which is now electric, always, just in case. And here's another plum, which is quite a bit of distance from the other one. I'm a little bit worried that they might be a bit too far apart in order to get good pollination between them. And if that turns out to be the case, I'll probably plant another one in the middle. The other one's on the far side of the pond down there. It's looking good. very, very tall at the moment. And that's the hawthorn flowering behind it. So, it's a cherry blossom that's blooming. And then this bank up here is full of oxeye daisies and dandelions, buttercups in there. I see yarrow, and there's plenty of poppies around the end of the summer as well. 2 red robin bushes up the top there. It's a nice chunk of firewood. A few art projects in there. Now up here on the out farm, I have 15 beds out of 30 so far made. Still plenty of dung and mulch and compost up here. This is the 3rd succession of onions, a mix of red and yellow onions. There's leeks, carrots in there, parsnip, and the garlic, which I planted last September, is getting nice and big, and we should have nice big bulbs in June. In these new beds that I've just made, I have beetroot and 2 early spuds in there, and 2 successions of onions. Black tarp is doing a really great job, and I've got this IBC tank over here which turns the dribble that I get from that hose into something that's nice and fast. I went from filling up a watering can in about 60 seconds to filling it up in about 5 seconds, so that makes a big difference. That field is rented out for these chaps. And I still have another 15 beds to make here. So then over here, I have 300 square meters of spuds. They still haven't been dug in, and down there along the hedge, those trees that I planted back in December are all coming up and doing really well. So we're hopefully going to plant these spuds today, and I'm going to end this video now because otherwise we won't get these spuds planted. Once again, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more videos, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. And yeah, if you want to see more detailed stuff, we try to update our Instagram and Facebook pretty much every day, so you see a lot more of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and see you next time.